Business-wise, it's West Hollywood, but shorthand, it's WeHo.
I usually say West Hollywood. I guess it's like the more formal name for it.
If I'm texting, it's WeHo because it's super fast.
Professionally, it's definitely West Hollywood. A couple of decades ago, when I used to frequent the nightlife spots in the city, it was always WeHo. So we're going to WeHo, go out.
I'm Carla Ford, and I'm president of the board and chairman of the board, and for Being Alive.
My name is Becky Harden, and I am an HIV navigation specialist at Being Alive Los Angeles. I am also the community outreach manager for Being Alive Los Angeles, and I see myself as an advocate for those who either don't have voices or whose voices aren't adequately represented. I see myself as a fierce and loyal friend. I see myself as a survivor.
Hi, my name's Jamie Baker. I'm program director at Being Alive. I've been there for 5.5 years now. I am a husband, son, baker, farmer, lover, goofball.
My name is Silvia Jimenez. I am an HIV navigation specialist at Being Alive. I've been at Being Alive for almost 2 years in November 1st. Ways I identify, I guess, a caretaker for my grandma, as Becky and Jamie know very well, a dog lover, daughter, sister.
Being Alive has grown and morphed and changed over the 34 years that it's been around, but it started in West Hollywood, I think because West Hollywood was a friendly location for the gay community. And it has obviously become, I guess it's kind of an international capital for gay people to know that they can come there, live, work, grow, be safe, and have fully realized lives. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with people that have been clients of Being Alive, and they say, Being Alive saved my life. And you know, that's powerful. And it is true for so many people. We also meet people where they are, provide the needs that try to connect them to whatever care or social service they need. And our staff are miracle workers, okay? Becky, Silvia, Jamie, and Gary, when he was with us, delivered over 25,000 services in 2018 to about 9,000 people. Think about that. 4 people delivering all of those services with very shoestring funding, but funding that we get a lot of funding from West Hollywood, the city of West Hollywood. They are a great benefactor to us. And we also receive funding from Los Angeles County and also from the state of California. And we do have generous donors in our local community and nationally.
Before COVID-19, we used to see clients in person regularly. Every day there were support groups. We had services, acupuncture, chiropractic clinic, mental health therapy. It was just a really lively, wonderful, rich space where clients were always coming and going. And of course, we were also on Santa Monica Boulevard, so we just never really knew who was going to be wandering in and saying hi. So it's interesting that you bring up the notion of the early days of HIV and AIDS and where we are right now with COVID-19, and how there is a really profound overlap between the experiences that our clients faced then and the mirroring of those experiences now.
I grew up and went to college in the Midwest in the early 80s. So I was removed from the bulk of, the epicenters of HIV. It was something that happened to other people, and it didn't affect, the middle of the country. So I didn't have that, I guess, institutional knowledge, so to say. But he has drawn a lot of parallels, like we don't know what long-term effects are. We don't know medication treatments and what's effective, and all of that is certainly frightening and does have a lot of commonality.
We have the isolation, we have biases and stigma, we have levels of complex grief, we have survivor's guilt for those who make it through and those who do, missing those who do not. But we also have the everyday people who become heroic in what they do.
Jamie texted me, I think on the 19th or the 20th, the day that I had felt it. I started feeling like slight back pain the day before, which was the 19th. And so then Jamie reached out on that Friday and was like, hey, how are you feeling? And I was like, I feel like I got hit by a bus. The body aches were so bad. The fever started the next day and lasted for about 6 days. And it was intense. It was scary. It was very different to be facing like your own mortality. Like, will I wake up tomorrow? Like, are my parents gonna have to bury me? Like, it was horrible. It was so scary. And even though I was surrounded by my aunts, my mom, my dad, my grandma, like through FaceTime, through just voice calls, I have never in my life felt so alone. Completely just isolated. And even then, like, you start thinking, like, especially because of the work that we do, I mean, I can't speak to the HIV experience, but I can only imagine that that's how they felt and how they still feel, because we still have clients who feel that way.
COVID-19 impacts me every day. COVID-19, we were ready for it at Being Alive. We had a very proactive, aggressive mitigation plan. We followed the guidance from the CDC, from LA County, from all the resources. We did everything that we could. We did everything right as far as what we were being told to do. And then we all got sick. We went down like dominoes. Silvia and Gary went first on Friday, March 20th. And then I on Saturday woke up with the fever and knew it was my turn, and Jamie late on Sunday. So we knew we all were exposed at the same time.
COVID is something that it's changed me completely. I developed an obsession with cleaning once I was able to get up and like do anything. So much so that like I started developing pain in my shoulders from scrubbing everything 8 times a day. But then there was like the more like how do I cope with things now? The first time I had to go to the grocery store, it took me 4 hours to actually leave my house. I got up, I got ready, and I was like, I'm going. And then I would not even touch the front door handle, and I would come back and shut myself back into my room. And and then I just sat there like, is this what my life is? How do I live a life like this?
We are being failed time and time again by our government and our communities who don't understand the gravity and the seriousness of COVID-19.
Gary meant so much to all of us at Being Alive. Gary, as the board member who voted for him to be hired, and by the way, it was hands down, there was no dissent. Everybody said, yeah, we got to get this guy.
Gary, being Gary, started a group text the minute we all got sick. So by Sunday, when Jamie said, that's it, I'm sick too, a group text started. And every day it was almost like roll call. How are you? What are your symptoms? What are you experiencing? Have you talked to any doctors? What are you hearing? Sharing best practices, funny stories. Like I said, some stuff that's too personal to share, but definitely things that we needed to know and kept us connected. When Gary it became apparent that Gary needed to be hospitalized and went into the hospital, he was still texting. There was a lot of back and forth. Some days we had hopeful messaging from Gary's care team, and some days the messaging was a bit dire. And when we got to the point where tests had been run, blood work had been taken, imagery had been taken, and we were delivered the message that we had no other options for Gary, and that Jeff had decided to allow him to leave a body that had failed him. It was devastating.
And then on top of everything, then Gary having to go to the hospital, and you feel that guilt, like, why, like, how did my body not fail me? How have I not ended up in that position?
He was visionary. He was so smart, so well-read, so knowledgeable about everything when it came to nonprofits, and he was fully committed to the organization. It wasn't just a job for him. It was an existence. It was a lifestyle. So that's what he meant to the organization. And for me personally, he was a wonderful friend. I miss him.
I thought I was woke. I ain't woke. I'm waking up. All of this has been weighing all of these Black Lives Matter protests and, I want to say, rallies, awareness meetings and marches. It's not a protest. Has weighed on me as a middle-aged white man of privilege that I can't imagine being a person of color and having that every damn day of your life weighing on you.
Being a part of a generation who prides themselves being woke and knowing so much more than the generations before them about these issues, I've learned a lot in this time, but also in just like the previous years, like in college, learning more about what is actually happening, what has happened, what they didn't teach you in years before, unlearning things that as a person that comes from a Latino family, unlearning those things and teaching new things to my grandma, my aunt, my mom, my dad, everybody.
So happy that this conversation is out and in your face.
With everything going on and everything we're learning, if our administration changes in January, then I think we're on the right path to start moving forward. I started therapy during this time. And within my first 5 minutes of my session, I was uncontrollably sobbing because my therapist said, hey, what you've been through is traumatic. And she said, and I don't throw the word trauma out there lightly. That was something that I hadn't even given myself credit for. So giving yourself some credit, that you're strong, you've been through something, and you came out of it and you're working on it. Because like I talk about it all the time, people who are like, oh, COVID's a hoax, COVID is this, COVID is that. It's extremely invalidating of the experiences that we've been through, the loss that we've experienced.
We carry our work home with us. Think about our clients and their problems all the time. And it's not easy to just, it's my self-care day. I'm going to go for a walk and come home and make a bad loaf of bread and everything's okay. Yeah, it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to self-care, but it's not easy to do.
Our lives are just really complicated. And of course, with the overlays of the pandemic, the economy, and the social unrest, it's just very, very, and having to not be able to be with people physically can be very oppressive and discouraging. But we have found ways to reach out to each other through phone, text, Zoom, all kinds of ways that I don't even know about, TikTok and whatever, to be connected, because we're social beings. And we all should be about self-care, whether that's making bread or petting your, being with your pet, taking a walk, doing some gardening. We all should be about doing things that give us breaks, because we all need those breaks.
We work very hard to maintain professionalism and privacy and HIPAA, but for so many of our clients, that line is really blurred as far as who we are in their lives. But to them, we are a lifeline. And so that need is great, especially right now.
As the program person, I spend a lot of time up front and coordinating all of the services like acupuncture, chiropractic, making sure appointments are managed properly, assigning people to therapists. So though Becky and Silvia spend a lot of really intense one-on-one time, I have the privilege of seeing a bunch of people every day. and I miss them.
In my time here, like I've come to bond with especially Spanish speaking clients. And so I'd get called up from my office up to the front and I'd be thinking somebody needs something. And then they're like, oh no, sit down. I need to tell you a story. You know? And that's something I definitely miss.
Having that connection with our clients and pulling it back and denying them and us that opportunity to connect is hard. It's harder for a lot of them because we have a social support system between ourselves or our other friends, but a lot of them don't. They are, like Becky said, they are alone. And the only time they get to connect with somebody is when they walk in the door. So yeah, we know it hurts to say, oh, sorry, we've got to delay reopening again. It was August, now it's looking like October, maybe longer, who knows. But yeah, these are not decisions that are made lightly, and we want to see them, and we want to give people hugs, and we just can't.
It's so important that we are there for them and that we just kept reassuring and that we kept telling them and saying, it's going to be okay. This isn't forever. This is this moment in time, and nothing is more important than you being safe and well, and we'll be safe and well so that when we can gather together again, we will. And we're going to do it right.
For us to see clients, we needed space big enough to socially distance. So we had to make sure offices could be able to accommodate that 6 feet distance between chairs, and this space does have that. There are a lot of opportunities for us at this new space, larger offices, windows, which we never had, which is a big deal that I always say, oh, I have a window now. It's making a big difference, and emotionally allowing us to kind of let go and move to the next level, what being alive will be in the future, and not just trying to replicate the past. So it's like a fresh start, a clean slate.
I can't express how grateful I am to be part of the Being Alive family, and just having the bond that I have with everybody. It's definitely made life a whole lot easier.
I think there are a host of stories that need to be told to accurately depict the unique time that we live in. I think that we need to tell the stories of asylum seekers and families torn apart, and kids in cages and detention centers, people fighting for DACA. We need those stories without retaliation so that they can come forward and really share. We need the stories of people of color, people who grew up in the era of Jim Crow and segregation and the civil rights movement, and we need the new generations to tell their story of what they're still hearing and seeing and experiencing. We need our clients who often don't get a story told about them because they're poor, because they're, if not poor, low income.
I really can't hear it when people are going to complain to me about wearing a damn mask or not getting to go to a ball game or a concert or whatever they want to do, and they're just complaining that they can't do it, and like that's it, like, oh, my life is terrible. I think about Anne Frank, the little girl in World War II who thought that there was always good in everybody. She lived in an attic with several members of her family for 2 years under a literal threat of death. I think that most of us, of us who have a home, we can sit in our homes and social distance and wear masks and wash our hands and do the things because we have that option to actually be able to be in our homes. The people that I feel for are the people for whom home is not a sanctuary. People who are not safe in their homes, those are stories that need to be heard too.
We need to hear the voices and the stories of people who would otherwise, for a host of reasons that we're seeing, not be heard. I am really grateful for a body that I haven't always been very kind to, because it didn't look a certain way. It didn't function a certain way. It didn't look like everybody else's body. But lo and behold, it's a body that saved my life and helped me through. And I made a promise to my body on my clearance day that I would be nicer to it and kinder in my thoughts.
Even though it was a horrible thing to go through, we all went through it together.
This too shall pass. And it seems trite to say that, but it's simply true. Things are not always going to be this way. This is a difficult time, true enough. But particularly for our clients who are, coping with some pretty tough stuff without COVID-19 and the economy collapsing and, racial unrest, things are going to get better. And what we all have to do is to reinforce that message. I mean, in the darkest days of HIV AIDS, people thought that it was just a gay disease and nobody gave a damn. And there were folks who, even in that environment, knew that that could not endure, that had to change. And they were the change. The founders of Being Alive were part of that change. So things are going to be better. We don't know when, how quickly, how soon, but things are going to get better.
I'm grateful and to be living through a time that I have read about in middle school and high school and college, reading about these periods of history and saying, what must it have been like? What must it have been like to be there and to experience these things? And what choices would I have made? What side of history would I have been on? And I feel it's so empowering to be here now and to be a part of change.
Lately, I've been grateful for my health, my family, my friends, my job. Grateful, surprisingly enough, to be back in an office, even if it is only a couple days a week, just because it's that little bit of normal that I have. I've been anxious, I've been scared, I've been depressed. It's a mix of how I've been, but luckily I have the support system that I do. I have my friends, I have my family, I have my Being Alive family. So I would say I'm okay. I'm okay.